We continue where we left off on Cybertron. It's still surrounded by the black hole energy, and everything's kind of just calm for the moment. But then we go to the surface and we see Grimlock and Megatron staring off, with Grimlock obviously getting ready to confront him. And then we see the rest of the Dinobots engaging with Thunderblast and Scourge, both kind of just getting separated by Swoop and Sludge, who go after Thunderblast, and Snarl and Slug, who go after Scourge, making sure that they are as far away from the fight as possible so that no one interferes. Scourge, however, is pretty upset about this, as he wants to be the one to fight against Grimlock and even demands that the Dinobots let him pass so that he can fight their leader, to which Slug tells him to shut it and let the real king fight, and rams him straight into a wall. So Scourge is able to finally push him back after a while, and then transforms into his beast form, and even roars, stating that you dare insult him by calling him a fake king. And just as he lunges at Slug, Snarl comes in and tail whips him and states, you were even able to bring true peace to our planet like he was. This is where Thunderblast then utilizes her vehicle form, or at least, a decent way of it, to actually try and evade Swoop while he's bombarding her with missiles and countering her with missiles, saying that she can't or he can't catch her. And this is where Swoop says he's not trying to. And this is where Sludge actually makes an earthquake, destabilizing her footing, and then Swoop pretty much just catches her entirely. This is where we then pan over to Grimlock and Megatron, both staring each other down and both facing off. And Grimlock says, bring it. Megatron, without any hesitation, says, very well, you fool, and launches a lightning blast at Grimlock. Grimlock is able to get his shield out just as the beam is about to connect, and tells Megatron, you're going to have to do vastly better than that, and even pushes forward. So Megatron decides that, okay, enough of this, and decides to fly at Grimlock full speed. However, Grimlock simply utilizes the back end of his sword and smacks Megatron back here, and simply tells him, in here I thought you were some kind of warrior. Now here you are being foolish. Megatron, enraged by this, activates his Cyber Planet key and pulls out his blicky and tries to shoot Grimlock with everything. Grimlock, however, doesn't even bother utilizing his shield and actually just simply runs around the blast, and then utilizing his blade deflects a few shots and then gets in close, pretty much disarms Megatron of his gun, and then proceeds to just wail on him with pure hands, like just straight up boxing him. Then Megatron pulls out his, I think his Ripper. I'm not even sure what this was called back then, but his normal Cyber Planet key weapon. And then Grimlock decides to dodge it by transforming into his beast mode and then tail swatting him, just as Megatron, tries to recover from overreaching. Megatron then launches a lightning blast right at Grimlock while he's still in his beast form. However, Grimlock decides to counter with his fire breath and actually utilizes the opportunity to close the distance between him and Megatron, and clamps down on the arm that's blasting him, and straight up just ragdolls Megatron at that point, and then stomps him on the ground repeatedly until Nemesis Breaker intervenes. And he tells him, Master, let's finish this together. And they pretty much form up and obviously form the Dark Claw mode. And this is where Megatron does activate his Cyber Planet key, saying he's going to tear Grimlock's spark out and feed it to those scraplets. So Grimlock simply states, so that's how you want to play it, huh? Well, consider this your final stand, and simply activates his Cyber Planet key, and this time he actually does something very deceptive, and he actually utilizes a low-level Fire Scorcher. And so Megatron, not realizing this, realizes he's been able to cut through the blast. It's a little bit of a struggle because it's still a powerful move, but again, Megatron, goes through it and thinks that, yes, now it ends now. The leader of the Dinobots, one of the toughest of all time, is now going to perish by my hand. And as he gets through it, he actually sees Grimlock's blade right in front of him. And before he can actually do anything or even move, Megatron's own speed and momentum carries him right through or right into Grimlock's blade, and it goes right through his chest and right into his spark as well. Keep in mind the other Decepticons have finally gotten past through the distortion, so Thundercracker, Crumple Zone, and Ransack all see what just happened, and they're like, "No, Megatron, say it ain't so, boss." And keep in mind the Autobots who have just dealt with Starscream also get through at this moment, and they're seeing it, and they're absolutely in shock at this moment with Wing Saber and Override actually looking in straight up disbelief, like, "No way, you killed Megatron. Nice job, big guy. I knew you had it in you." And this is where even Optimus even states in here he thought it wouldn't be possible for anyone other than him to be able to beat Megatron, or maybe even Vector Prime, but it's incredible. And so Grimlock simply looks Megatron into the eyes and tells him, "It's over. You lost because of your arrogance." And Megatron disperses like in the original, telling him that no, it's not over. However, one thing does happen, and that is Nemesis Breaker. The corruption that Megatron instilled with him with his death begins to break here. And this is where he finally goes back into his original self. Or, well, with the fact that he's now free, he calls himself Leo Breaker, with all the Autobots absolutely happy that not only do they have their friend back, but they've beaten Megatron. They've beaten him of his control. However, this is where Optimus feels the strange pull of his combination or his power link ability, and this is where he finally gets Savage Claw mode as kind of like a showing or kind of like a recognition that Leo Breaker is back, or that Leo Breaker is now on his side. So this would actually be Optimus's reward. Now on Cybertron, the Autobots are trying to find a way to rebuild the black hole, or repel the black hole. Excuse me. However, something's running around. This shadow-like phantom spirit is going around, and well, Crosswise and Hotshot are the ones to first encounter it. And well, they kind of see the silhouette of it, but they don't want to take any risk and open fire. And Hotshot says there's no way. They're not going to be able to beat this thing if they can't even blast it. And so this is where both of them actually meet their end, when the silhouette not only appears behind them, but pins them against each other and utilizes a blade to stab them. But just as they're about to go online, it reveals himself to be Galvatron. Yeah, I definitely think that we would get Megatron's entire evolutionary process, but I would rather have him do it by him being so angry that he couldn't die, that the shadow spark of Unicron caused him to evolve, especially with the energies of the black hole. So this would have gotten reported to the rest of the Autobots, and well, excuse me, we would have seen Jetfire note to everyone that Hotshot and Crosswise have been killed here. Now, the reason why I'm having these two die is because not only did the Autobot team have way too many members, but they had a severe lack of deaths. I think it would have been perfect for the story to have Hotshot, Scattershot, and Red Alert actually die by Megatron's hands and then develop it from there. So Optimus decides to take a team of Grimlock, Wing Saber, Override, and Evac to actually confront this Galvatron, or this entity. And so Starscream does arrive like in the original, and this complicates things. However, they do manage to activate Primus, and Starscream still gets that little bit of spark like he did earlier, and well, Primus whoops him out like a redheaded stepchild. So with that being said, yeah, Starscream gets taken care of like in the original, but now they just have to turn their attention to Galvatron, and hopefully no one else has to die. By the way, if you're wondering where the Decepticons are, they would actually be held in like a prison block, but let's just say Galvatron freed them. So pretty much as this group is pretty much making their way towards Galvatron's last known location, we would get moments where Evac remembers Crosswise and Override remembers Hotshot, with both of them lamenting on how they'll never be able to see these great fellows or great Autobots ever again. And this is where they actually meet up with Galvatron, saying, "Ah, great, he was waiting for him." And to which Grimlock says, "Yeah, maybe I should have made sure you were dead this time." And so Galvatron simply laughs at this, telling Grimlock if he wants to do it, then bring it. So Grimlock, without any hesitation, gets out his blade, and with full fury, he lunges at Galvatron, and well, the blade gets caught in his bare hands. And Grimlock's looking at him like, huh? Now hold up. Wait a minute. This ain't right. And so Grimlock begins to put more force into his blade, and this is where Galvatron does buckle a little bit in his grate. However, he disarms Grimlock and even throws the sword at him. But considering Grimlock's, more skilled and less giant and lumbering like Metroplex, he's able to roll out the way and catch his blade, but the force of him having to catch such a thing does send him tumbling back into a wall. This is where Galvatron prepares his blade in order to execute Grimlock. However, this is where I would say Optimus Prime comes in and just rocks Galvatron's, skull. And Optimus would be in his Sonic Wing mode and proceeds to battle against Galvatron. Keep in mind, this is an early Galvatron, meaning his power level is not as high as when he first appeared, because again, keep in mind, characters in the Unicron trilogy just straight up progressed entirely. Like, I would definitely say, like, there were about half of the characters that were on Megatron's level. And so this is where Evac and Override both begin to check on Grimlock, asking if he's going to just take this line down. But this is where the rest of the Dinobots show up and says, no, he's not. And so, seeing this, and, well, understanding what his Dinobots mean, he doesn't hesitate and tells them, let's do this. So we go back to the fight between Galvatron and Optimus, where they actually get into another clash, and this is where Optimus straight up loses it, and Galvatron is about to just kill him right then and there, stating that, well, he might as well finish him and then return to the Dinobot. However, this is where he gets stumped on by Volcanicus and tells him, you're going to have to get through him first if you want to deal with Optimus. So Galvatron and Volcanicus both trade blows, with them being on surprisingly equal footing. However, I would probably say this gives Grimlock a bit more of a resolve amp, if you will, which again is pretty common in most forms of anime type of media. And he even pulls out his magma blade, and this actually does significant damage to Galvatron, even tearing apart his armor again. However, adding Optimus with his Sonic Wing mode, actually using this opportunity to get some licks in, they both state, let's finish this. And this is where they both summon their Cyber Key powers, or their Cyber Keys. However, these are different. These Cyber Keys, when they come down, they're golden. They're with Primus's face, almost like a God Key in a way. And so this is where both of them simply shout out their attacks. Considering Optimus is in Sonic Wing mode, this gives it a much more significant boost, and Optimus shouts Cosmic Blast, and this is where Volcanicus shouts Ultimate Flare, and this is where they both kind of just launch their attacks at Galvatron. And well, the funny part it is, while this kind of should have killed him, it actually does something cartoonish and simply just blasts Galvatron back and blasts him into his Decepticon troops, who were just sitting there watching the whole thing. And this pretty much just sends them, skidding back and sending them across the cosmos as it is. So the Dinobots disassemble, and well, Optimus and Wing Saber do the exact same thing. And now they have to talk about not only getting the last Cyber Planet key, but being able to fully stop the black hole once and for all. And that's where I'm going to leave it off here, you guys. Please comment down below, like and subscribe, and share with your friends. This is Legendary Grimlock, and I hope you guys have a blessed day.